Hello, dear listener. I'm the Rev Michelle Byerly, and I am one of the producers on New Faith, New Media, and the co host, along with Father Andrew Miller, for the podcast A Pastor and a Priest Walk into a Movie Theater, where we talk about faith, life, and the silver screen and reflect theologically on a variety of different movies and just have a really good time together. So each of us at New Faith New Media has been asked to do a little bit of reflecting and put together something that is kind of an introduction to us and our thinking as well. And so I wanted to talk a little bit about a topic that's near and dear to my heart and is also a little bit inspired by the sermon that I preached this morning. So I won't do the whole sermon, but some of those thoughts that I had as I was preparing that sermon are going to come up for me. And that topic is Sabbath rest. And the word Shabbat literally means rest in Hebrew. And the passage that I was reading for today is one that kind of surrounds the feeding of the 5,000, but it's where Jesus has sent out the disciples to heal and to teach and bless in his name. And then he has them come back. And the first thing that he does as he does that is he tells them to get on the boat and get some time away, even as people recognize them, even as there's many, many people who still gather. And I talk about that because we'll get to that in a minute. But for me, this idea of rest and Sabbath really struck a nerve because it seems like we as a culture really struggle with this concept, especially Americans. And I think that part of that has to do with the fact that we have set our culture up to define ourselves by our work, to define ourselves by what we produce and make for others who then make money off of us, unless you're someone who has a business of your own. And even still, it's just a very everyone's trying to make something off of others, and we're defined by what we do rather than by who we are as human beings. And so for me, part of Sabbath is reminding ourselves as individuals and as a culture that we are more than just what we produce for others. And it is a act of resistance. I have heard recently about the Frito-Lay strikes or different works to unionize, and for me, Sabbath is a way to resist that tendency in culture. And I also struggle sometimes when we conflate this idea of Sabbath and self-care, and we've kind of let our culture define self-care as things like chocolates, Netflix and chill, and we haven't really allowed ourselves to remember that Sabbath isn't so much about consumption. We can, those can be kind things that we can do for ourselves, but it's much more about reconnecting with that part of ourselves that is human and that part of ourselves that is created in the loving image of God. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earths, and God looked at it all, declared it good, and sanctified the seventh day for rest. God said, you know what? We're all good. Now it's time to rest. And not just me, but others go along and rest as well. And I think that if God rested, maybe we need to as well. And that it's not just a convenience thing. We have to do this for our spirit, because I know if I'm not getting the rest that I need, if I'm not doing the things that actually feed my soul, not just sitting down watching TV and disengaging, which I might need to do once in a while, but truly reconnecting with God. If I'm not doing that, I am not a very nice person. Things irritate me a lot more. I want to try and get into this I'm right, you're wrong, and try to over-explain, and it's just not a healthy thing when I'm not observing Sabbath, and I can tell. And right now, I think part of what I'm seeing in our culture, having been through this time of pandemic, is we're trying to juggle a million things in our culture. We're trying to either working a job that we're scared we're going to lose, or we're working it, or we've lost a job and we're trying hard to find one and find one and find one that will actually support us. That's another thing I want to talk about. We need to, if we are owners of businesses and cultures and supervisors of any kind, part of the justice of Sabbath is that not everyone can afford to take Sabbath. I don't know how many days, millions of days, people lose every year of paid vacation because they don't take it. Either because it would be easier not to because their workload is so overwrought and we haven't paid for more staffing like we need to, or maybe they can't afford the time away because they don't make enough and what they're making is just enough to survive. All of these tie together as justice issues for me when we talk about this idea of rest. When I rest, I'm allowing someone else to grow into their potential of doing the work that is theirs to do. I cannot overfunction for someone else. And that might sound a little cold on my part. It might sound like I'm trying to shove things off on someone else, but really, we all have to function together. And we all need purpose and meaning. And I also think that we have to find a way to support those who, for whatever reason, are unable to work or have other things going on. We have tied our identity so much to who we are. We've tied ourselves to our jobs, and that's not healthy. It's really not healthy. We have to do better, and that's why I advocate, and I know that some disagree about this, but there's conversations around a universal basic income or tax credits or things like that. And part of it is we are living in a world where work is changing. And the idea of the stable job with good benefits that pays well is almost a thing of the past. They're there, but it's a lot harder to find, and people are putting together gigs, and yet we are holding our own throat by doing that because people can't afford houses, they can't afford to have kids, and we're just creating more of these issues because we are not allowing ourselves to force this system to stop and rest and create moments. Because if we're overfunctioning, engines burn out, humans burn out. And my biggest concern about why we are burning out right now, or the symptom I see of us burning out, is if we're burnt out, we have a very hard time having the energy to care for someone else. The healing has to keep happening. There are always going to be people in need. That's part of what I take away from this passage that I preached on. It's that, there's always someone coming after Jesus. There's always something that's always needing. But Jesus can only heal people. We can only be effective if we take the time once in a while to get away, to rest. And again, I recognize I have privilege in this because I get time away. I get a decent enough salary that I can plan to save up for a vacation to travel somewhere. Right now I have other financial goals, but I could. And I make enough to do so. I'm not in survival mode. And the thing is, if we as a culture could get ourselves beyond survival mode, there is so much that we could do together, that we could create, that we could help with in the world. And right now, we're not able to because we are so tied down and so tight because we're just focusing on getting through the next day. And we're living, it seems like every day and every week I'm like, okay, if I can just get to this day, or if I can just get through this, then things will get better. And then when I get there, it never does. It's relentless. So part of it is I have to take the time, and part of it is we have got a pace and a structure in this culture that is not sustainable. And we have got to do something about that. And so my challenge, my encouragement is, if you are able to, take that rest. If you are not able to, band together and start demanding it. If you are someone in authority over others, make it happen for them. Make it a responsibility of yours to ensure that your employees are cared for. So with that, those are just a few of my reflections for the day. I know that it's not very deep or very movie related, although I did use the illustration of the movie Christopher Robin. And there's a couple parts with that I really like. So there's the phrase, sometimes doing nothing leads to the very best something. And there's just this element of Winnie the Pooh teaching the adult Christopher Robin to notice things, to appreciate the world, to find those joys in life, like a small red balloon. And then the solution at the end of the story, it's a little too easy for me, but the solution at the end of the story is to give his workers paid vacation and to make their luggage, that he's at a luggage company, and make it be a lower price point so that people can afford to buy it and go on vacations. And so it really ties in with this idea of Sabbath rest. So I hope that you will find those moments. I hope that you'll have a chance to pause and rest. Maybe this is part of that for you, but I hope that when you rest, that you feel the presence of the divine within you in the midst of that you reconnect with that thing which gives you purpose and meaning in this life. And so with that, I pray those blessings of rest upon you, and I'd say let's get to work, because we have work to do to allow that to happen. With that, grace and peace to you, and I wish you all the best. And check us out on New Faith, New Media in all of our podcasts, Faith and What Resonates, A Pastor and a Priest Walk into a Movie Theater, and many, many more that we are planning. So have a wonderful day.